of any chemicals or other harmful materials or anything other than normal municipal waste. The DEP determined, not the DEP, I'm sorry, the EPA, the federal government determined there was absolutely no evidence of that, and therefore they punted it, in effect. The state said, we're not going to put any federal money into fixing this, but there's no evidence that there's anything really bad here other than trash.
Okay.
So if there is any, that was what, Gary?
It was the mid-19, I believe it was either 1984 or 1985, you know, because they had just put, they put the soil cover on, and yes, there was, you know, they had to, basically all of the counties were asked to do a study to see if their landfills were in fact Superfund sites. And so yes, that study was done post initial closure of the landfills, and yes, those, you know, that was part of our remedial investigation, was getting thousands and thousands of government documents. And so yes, the EPA study was one of them, and there was determination it's not a Superfund.
And then when DEP took jurisdiction, it was extensively studied with soil samples and monitoring it around, you know, the outside of the landfill and that drilling down into the landfill. And all those records, that's the records Gary's talking about, it's all that. It was all made available to DEP and many other folks over the last 10 years. We have not found any
They're available
evidence.
to actually anyone, Don.
Like that?
They're available to anyone. You
Yeah.
can ask any.
We haven't found any, I understand this rumor that we've heard from time to time. Well, if it's not a rumor, we need evidence. If there's an area that needs to be addressed, we'd be happy to try to address
That's the
it.
spot.
What's that?
That's the spot that has to be looked at.
That's 56 acres. Where there?
Towards where,
Yeah, you wanna show me what you think and tell me why you think it?
I'll show you what I know. When this was all trash, all this was 42. Right here?
42 is all the way over here, sir. This is
42?
Yep.
All this right here was all trash.
This was the last part filled. Trash started to be filled here, and then it was filled in this direction.
All of it.
We used to, when I was a little kid, we used to shoot shotguns at rats and stuff like that, and we'd have little shotgun wars. I can remember flatbed trucks coming down Harding Avenue, coming back here, and dropping barrels and barrels and barrels of waste oil in drums. Nothing was ever done about that.
That's
I
not
never
true.
seen anything done about it.
That is absolutely not.
Were you there?
true. You want to listen to what I have to say?
I
or you
didn't
just
listen
say
to
something?
what I was
saying.
That was all checked out.
By
And
who?
repeated, the DEP and the EPA. There were trucks that went down there, and they were part of Continental Vanguard, which was not part of the landfill, and they had a permit for a waste oil operation.
Okay.
But you're giving and jumping all around. I went through myself every single record. Fazio kept records, and every one we found, it's like DuPont sent something over, and somebody thinks, oh, we talked to DuPont. They said, yes, we definitely sent stuff there. What did we send? Lab wipes. We would never send anything like that there. You can say that you saw things, but if people go through the records, they ask the people that operate things. The DEP asked us to put holes every 90 feet throughout the entire site.
Entire site.
Nothing was found. Groundwater was measured at 2 levels beneath the site. If you know something about drums, and if they were leaking, the concentrations would go up. The concentrations at this landfill are either even or going down. $250,000 was spent checking back to see if there was anything left over at the time. But other than you saying you saw something, there's no evidence that it's causing any problem to the landfill or the environment. Jennifer told you the answer of what was causing the problem. The water was going under the landfill here, and there were pipes that had broken. Once those were fixed, the concentrations of leachate under the landfill have been going down. How bad was the problem? It was not severe, but we monitored this for years. We used to see little bubbles of methane. They have not been there now for 15 years. So maybe you saw it. I don't doubt that you saw it. Whether it actually caused an environmental problem is a different question. That's what I do, that's what DEP does, and that's what he did.
You can go on to
Spend this
Google.
time, when we spend this amount of time, and we can't find a discharge. Okay, discharge, that's what DEP cares about, that's what I care about, because I can't tell what kind of cover to put on or what type of cap. We didn't rush into this. We waited 4 years of testing before we decided what kind of cap, how to do it. We didn't wait for that. You won't see any ponds. It was the ponds that were causing the problem, and because the water was trying to get under the landfill through the old marsh. That was 100% taken care of, and that was only done when we found all the right things to
The
do.
reality is, there are many different types of landfills that accept different kinds of material, all, you know, permitted, because we as a society produce a lot of stuff and it's gotta go somewhere. There are landfills like this that were, at least from an intent standpoint, exclusively municipal waste, stuff that people put out in the trash. There are other landfills that were designed and permitted to accept, you know, waste oil and chemicals and other things. Those sites typically are much more problematic, and well, hold on, and the evidence that those kind of materials are there is very clear, because it's leaching into the groundwater, it's getting out in some way. If there's those kinds of damaging materials there, I fully believe you saw what you saw, but the reality is, if there were dangerous chemicals here, they would have shown their ugly faces by now after 30, 40, 50 years. That's the reality of it. And you got to remember too, even in municipal landfills, there's no one there opening up every trash bag and making sure there's not, you know, a can of paint or something else in there. Every municipal landfill, whether we like it or not, has some quantities of inorganic material, is probably the best way to put it. You know, everybody has put something in trash that they probably shouldn't have, especially back in the 50s and 60s when, you know, nobody really knew or cared about the environment that much, frankly. But the reality is, as a town, as an environmental professional, as the state, what do you do when you got a municipal landfill like this? You test it, you determine as best you can what's inside of it. In general, not every square foot of it, because you can't do that. You can't take it out, because where are you going to take it to? You're not allowed to take it anywhere. You have to deal with what you have there. So the science has developed, let me finish please. The science has developed that the best way to protect the public from any contaminants and to return that land to productive use is to do what's been done here, which is to not permit water to get into it, to mix with whatever's in there, and create leachate and increase the chance for it to get out, and otherwise to cap it. There's 20, 30 feet of material on top of whatever is there. And it's done for a reason. It's done to isolate and protect you and I, because we can walk on that site now, and I have walked it, and it's safe to walk on. We're not going to get sick, and you're not going to get oil on your sneakers or anything like that. Whatever's there, there's 30 feet of soil between
70 feet of dirt on top of whatever was underneath of it.
So
There's always going to be trash there. That's one thing that kind of is.
No, I'm talking,
There is
the
always
trash
trash.
was there, and they were bringing the drums in. I mean, I'm talking flatbed after flatbed after flatbed for days and weeks and all that stuff. And they were dumping these drums in there.
Right,
And
well,
then you cover
we have
everything.
to,
You
sir,
supposedly-
we have to
Nothing
follow.
along the lines of what you say has ever been seen during the investigation.
That's very good.
DEP had two
When
pieces.
did you-
Give
when
me
was
the
your
respect.
investigation?
I just kept quiet for you for 5 minutes. Do you want me to tell you about this, or you just want to keep interrupting and say things that you think you saw? I don't disrespect you. Maybe you did see them. What matters is,
Don't raise your voice to me.
I will not raise my voice to you. What matters to the DEP and to me is, are they there, and are they moving, and are they affecting the environment? That's what I do. That's what I'm licensed for. Can you give me a minute, please? Jennifer, show the gentleman. All right. You see this slide? When the first, can you see this?
That's phase 3, right? That's over there.
That's right. And
That's
I want to tell you
Tree
about
Road
this.
entrance, right? I ain't got a problem with that over there.
Then why do you have a problem with phase 1 or 2? You know,
Because that's where all the drums were being brought in. And
Here?
In phase one,
phase
that's,
one.
that's where all the drums were being brought in, because we were having shotgun wars.
Let's
and
go
we
back to
watched all that
phase
stuff
one.
already.
Let's hit it, let me at least
Now, you
explain.
might need to read that,
I think
right?
that-
We're gonna take 5 minutes to discuss this.
This is phase
I'd be
one.
happy to have a separate conversation, but we do have a lot of material to get through. We have 5 minutes, Gary, to address this.
Do you agree this is phase one?
I know it better by that.
Okay, over that. Would it be surprised at you if you understood that DEP made Fazio put in a cutoff wall before Bellmawr came on the site all the way around phase one? And if you, a cutoff wall is what stops oil and things from coming out because it
And what
used
year
to
was that
flow. Excuse me, you're constantly interrupting. That's what you don't understand. Be respectful now. This is phase one. There's a cutoff wall from here around to here before I came on the site, and because Bellmawr made the noise, this cutoff wall was put in. Now, if you had drums in here, we put holes every 90 feet. Did we look and have to put holes behind the cutoff wall to see if anything was there? Yes. Was there any oil? No. But the cutoff wall was because they wanted to make Fazio stop. Let's move to phase two. Now, this is phase two. You understand what we talk about with phase two? When phase one was here, DEP made us study all this because he didn't put in a cutoff wall and he was never asked to. When we studied this area and we have it, you see the ponds here? No, they're all gone. Do we have monitoring wells all up and down here? Yes. Did we study the creek up and down? Yes. Now move to phase three.
Can I ask what the mall
I will do one more. This is phase three, okay? This, same deal. Now DEP asked us, if necessary, to put cutoff walls in phase two and phase three. When we got the top straightened out and capped, when we got rid of the ponds, there was nothing left here. The monitoring wells were virtually clean in phase one and phase two. This was a 4-year study. DEP said, you don't need the cutoff walls there because there's no contamination there. So the area that you're talking about, there already was a cutoff wall when Fazio was there. The subsequent areas, as we studied these monitoring wells, shallow and deep, up and down the stream, 4 times a year, there's no contamination that justifies anything further. Not we decide, this is something I propose. The DEP says, yes, you don't need it. Now, we held these meetings, if people came, this is what we told people 2 or 3 times a year. This is nothing new. But I'm telling you, there's no contamination coming from this site of the type that you're concerned about. And it was not inexpensive, and it went on for years. We came to these meetings, we told everybody. But what you're saying, you haven't been to the meetings or you haven't read the file.
I've only heard of 2 meetings ever being held here.
Okay.
And they're all being scheduled at certain times.
Mayor, how
when
many
people
meetings
can't
have we
come.
had? Can we count the meetings?
Yeah, you used to have closed meetings, they didn't even put it in a
There's
public.
public information, welcome to the.
I'm gonna give you my card. Please contact me if you'd like to meet with Gary, or anybody
I
else.
just have questions and I want answers, that's all. I ain't meeting with nobody. I'm having a conversation right here
Gary?
because I know things happen.
All right, this gentleman is, okay, this gentleman is from
He's from the
DEP.
state.
I've worked on at least 50 or 60 different landfills. Every pre-82 landfill that closed before 82 has had some hazardous materials dumped in them. To what extent, we don't know, except unless what we see in the records. The really bad ones became Superfund sites because they were really bad. Case in point, I live in Mantua. I have 2 Superfund landfills. The groundwater was so bad, they had to extract it out, run it to a treatment center before they can dispose of it because the groundwater was that bad. This site, stuff was dumped there. I no doubt there was stuff dumped here. But it wasn't bad enough to cause major contamination issues that we sampled the hell out of this whole landfill. The groundwater, in relative terms, isn't that bad compared to other sites. They're doing everything they're supposed to, and they've been monitored. Well, again, it's contaminated, but it's not.
You're DEP, right?
Yeah.
Are you the guy who used to come in and monitor everything that was going on?
I only inherited the site back into, I know the people who did it. And
I used to talk to that guy every time he come in, and I told him that there was stuff there, and all he cared about was dust being picked up. That's all he
well,
cared
there's
about.
different DEP, like I can see air folks, but like I said, if it's
And
the
I'm
case
talking
manager.
inside. Every time he came around, I told him about the drums every time he came around, he didn't care, all he cared about
Yeah,
was
but
dust.
every
I don't-
landfill like this
Let's
has.
move on.
All right, well, thank you, I'm sorry, we do have to move on, we have an agenda, we'd be happy to.
I worked with DEP and I've been doing this since 1973. You're just throwing things against the wall and it's very unprofessional. I have never seen a DEP person do what you say. And I've handled as many landfills as he. I don't believe it.
She's saying,
Okay,
let's move on.
okay, I'm sorry, this is our presentation, I do have to, I've got
I
other
thought this was a
things
meeting
that we
for
need
the-
to get
It was
to.
never
And sir, if you want to address things at another time, we'll be happy to set up another meeting, but we have a lot of things that we're legally required to get to in this meeting, and it's already 10:07.
You're just
So-
cutting people so they
So
can
if you have
talk.
some,
Mayor, can I ask that we
we're happy
hold
to talk
comments
another
till the
time,
end?
but we're not ready to talk about that issue anymore. Mr. Chairman, can I ask you to move on?
Yeah, Jack, didn't you work for the Eco Center?
Yeah. And I weighed in all the trucks and I seen all the,
You worked for the Eco Center, but you never reported to me about you seeing jobs.
I told you when you had plans and what you wanted to do over there, that was a bad idea, it wasn't gonna work.
He never told me anything. Listen,
At the recreation center, when we had pizza and you had the blueprints in your hand in 2006, I told you it wasn't gonna work.
Okay, well, we're
Then
moving
in
on.
2007, when I started
We're happy
working
to
there,
address your issue some other time, but we have to
because
move on.
you just don't want to hear the truth, okay? I understand.
We'll close the discussion with saying that the site has been extensively tested as required by law, and there is no contaminants coming out of the site.
Then you're lying, you're flat out lying.
sir, we're having a meeting now, so
That's not fair.
we're trying to explain what we've done
What you've done,
for the community.
The best science has been applied, and the work has been done. There are no more contaminants.
You're not out there
coming
shooting
of the
rats
site.
anymore, are you?
no?
Okay, let's go.
What's that got to do with it? There's no rats to
Okay.
shoot at, there's no dirt to shoot at.
There are other issues we need to discuss. We're going to move on. The next issue
I can't believe
is...
you are just
Progress
sweeping the shit
regarding-
underneath the rug.
Sir,
Sir,
you're
we're having a
being rude.
meeting.
You're being rude.
I'm trying to get answers and you just cut me off all
We gave you
freaking time. and
answers.
won't
We just
give me
gave you
answers.
30 minutes, sir. We can't answer anything else. I wasn't there. Mr. Nogowski wasn't there. Mr. Brown wasn't there. What we can tell you is what we did when we had control of the site and what tests we have conducted to make sure that the citizens are safe and the site is not contaminating the water, the air, or
I have
any other
facts.
area. What, do you have a suggestion?
Yeah.
What's that?
That you Google Bellmawr Superfund site, and it says it was the largest
You can
oil
Google
spill.
a lot of things on the internet. Bellmawr was never a Superfund site, sir.
So you're talking that kind of stuff is a lie, right?
It's a false conspiracy theory. The site was never a Superfund site. It was rejected as a Superfund site because
And it wasn't the
the
largest
feds
oil spill
found
at the
no
time.
evidence that it was seriously contaminated. We didn't, the federal government did. Is that right, Ron?
And what year was the DEP Superfunds created?
It's a federal program, sir.
When was it created?
In the 1970s, right?
No,
72, 73?
1980. I
Okay.
used to do hazmat work too, so I mean, you used to
Okay.
trying to talk all this stuff.
If you have anything you'd like to discuss, we'd be happy to set up another time where you have our exclusive attention. Right now, we have to move
You
on.
should let the.
So we're going to talk about the New Jersey DOT progress
citizens
issues.
be here too.
Mr.
Sir, do
Jackson,
you want me to call the police?
What am I doing?
you're
You
interrupting
not
the
letting them
public
finish
meeting.
their
We gave you
thing.
30 minutes. I mean, come on.
On what? So in other words, you guys can say whatever you want, and just pass whatever you want, and do whatever you want, and I'm not allowed to say anything about anything? Is that how it works?
No, you've been speaking for the last 30 minutes.
I haven't spoke for no 30 minutes, I know that. Every time I try to say something, I get cut off.
All right, sir,
I
I
wanna
gave you my
handicap
card.
that
We're
stuff, and
happy
now
to
you-
set up
now
another
you
time.
say
Sir,
them
we're
drums.
moving on. Mr. Jackson.
So we have two projects that are in the works with New Jersey DOT. The first concerns, obviously everyone's familiar with the work going along with 295 and 676. That continues. In addition to that work, there's two components that are more directly related to the landfill remediation effort. The first is the Missing Moves project, which, Jen, if you want to just slide ahead. One. The Missing Moves project, which is reflected by this blue line that goes back across and over to 295, and is the DOT's plan to make a connection finally between 295 and 42 southbound, and 42 northbound, and 295 southbound. That's why they call it the missing moves, because they are movements between those highways that was never constructed when the highways were first put in. So that project is continuing to move through the planning process.
They're actually bidding out the contract right now, I was told, so.
Great.
They are securing the right of way, and the contract is out to bid right now to build the missing moves. The other thing that's important about missing moves is that the original design of missing moves was to cut directly across the landfill, which and the DOT did not propose to do any remediation whatsoever. They were just going to float the road on a foam material and leave Bellmawr to deal with the contamination issues. It also was going to be a road at grade, meaning that you couldn't have got across it or under it, meaning that the waterfront would have been totally cut off. There never could have been a waterfront park or public access. Mayor Philippek and Counsel and with assistance from the county and Joe Roberts and many other folks lobbied the state for many years. Eventually, the DOT agreed to move the roadway north off of the landfill, and also to elevate it, which allows roads to go underneath it. So that is how missing moves evolved into what it is today. It's a part of the 295, 42, and connection that was never built. It was proposed 30 years ago, but never built. That's why they call it the missing moves. Also, because of the very bad traffic in the area, which is caused by state traffic, which is directed from the turnpike along Benigno Boulevard and then across Creek Road, this whole area here is inundated with through traffic. Not folks who live in Bellmawr, not people who are going to Bellmawr, but they're going through Bellmawr from state roads. You all know what it's like in this area here. For years, Mayor Philippek, Mayor Souter, and council people lobbied.
Excuse me, you got Councilman Haggerty right here.
Yeah, absolutely, Councilman Haggerty, you've been there for a while as well, sir. You're right in the middle of it. Went to meetings, lobbied, called, did what was necessary.
Sure.
And finally, after 2 years, the state agreed to build a connector road, right, Sean?
Correct.
This was about a year ago when they finally agreed to do it. And what they're going to do is they're going to build a 4-lane road connecting Creek Road all the way up here so that it alleviates all the backups and constrictions in this area here, which Creek Road was never designed in this area for that level of traffic, and neither were these small roads in Bellmawr. So it's going to take all that traffic down here, a signal 4-lane highway to and from Route 42 north and south. So the DOT is going to spend about $5 million to alleviate the horrible traffic in the Creek Road and Harding Avenue intersection area. So that's a result of your team, your elected officials lobbying hard at the state level for many years to get that concession. So that's the two significant elements of the NJDOT, the missing moves, and then the Creek Road connector. That plan has been vetted by Mayor and Council as well as a committee, including the Safety Director, Director of Public Works, Police and Fire folks, Councilman Wilhelm as well. And that plan is now being sent up to the DOT. Another significant state issue that Sean has been involved in is tidelands. Tidelands are areas that used to be tidally flowed, used to be underwater, at least at high tide. Under an old legal concept, the state claims title to areas that used to be flowed by tidal waters. A lot of this site, back in the day, was actually underwater. It was a mudflat here. So there have been several grants already. All of Phase 1 is covered by one Tidelands grant, and then Phase 3, most of Phase 3 is covered by 2 separate Tidelands grants. The middle section in Deptford, although the process was started, it was never completed, unfortunately, back in the 70s or 80s. So we applied, and those applications are in process to purchase what's called the Tidelands grant from the state. Recently, Sean, the technical folks at Pylons had asked us to bifurcate that, correct? To separate it between the areas adjacent to Phase 2 and Phase 3, right?
Correct.
And that, so we had to redraw the plans. We could advance the slide. So the Phase 2 Pylons grant is this yellow area here, including down here, this green hatched area. The green is the park, by the way. We'll get to the park in a moment, but the yellow area, including this part here, and then the little tail that goes over here, that's the Phase 2 grant, which BWD is applying to get the grant. And then the next slide. This is a little bit hard to see, but this is Phase 3. This is the borough's property. When the DEP, Pylons technical folks looked at the existing grants that Bellmawr got back in the 70s and 80s, they found small areas that either naturally changed over 50 years, or when they were doing the landfills back in the 60s and 70s, they may have filled areas, no one really knows. But there's small little areas which are only 50, 100 square feet here and there, and there's about 10 of them. All of which is in the area closest to the water, and all of which is in the area that is green acres now, and will be remaining green acres in the future. But the state has asked, and so we were helping the borough prepare. The borough's going to submit its own Pylons grant application for the small areas here, and the developer's paying the cost of that. So those two applications, are going in, and
So each of these blue areas are teeny tiny little dots of land that the borough of Bellmawr, when they purchased this property, these tiny little pieces just weren't part of the grant process, and so we're kind of like wrapping that up now.
And back in the 70s, you got to remember the technology that engineers can use today is much better today than it was then. So you can define down to the inch where the high tide line is. You really couldn't do that so well back in the 70s. So that's the Pylons update. The waterfront park. When we started this project, Mayor and Council made it very clear we're going to do three things. First thing we're going to do is we're going to remediate the landfill and stop contamination from leaching into the creek or otherwise being exposed to citizens. We've accomplished that. The second important thing was we want a waterfront park. We want our citizens and the citizens of the county to be able to finally get to the water and enjoy it recreationally. So we're going to build a park. That was the second thing. Is no matter what we do, we're going to remediate the site first. That's the most important thing. Second most important, we're going to provide public access to the water and build a waterfront park. And the third is we'd love to be able to find some kind of commercial use to redevelop the site, because we don't think it should be housing or other types of uses, but we think it should be used commercially. So those are the three goals. We've accomplished the first one because there's no longer any leachate or other contaminants leaving the site. The second one is the waterfront park. We have provided plans, which we're going to talk about a little bit. They're still changing a little bit, although they're generally designed. There's some details such as the width, the pathway in certain areas, which are not really reflected on these plans, but they will be. We've had several meetings with Bellmawr officials, council people, the director of the planning board, director of public works, the borough's planner, and we've had input from all these folks to come up with a plan that is what Bellmawr wants. It's going to be a natural waterfront park with public access to the waterfront. So people want to go fishing or bring a kayak down there, they can do that. There's going to be a walking trail, nature overlooks, there's going to be benches to sit along the way. There's going to be exercise stations, shade structures like pavilions, so that people can rest as they're walking along the trail.
One of the requests I understand that was recent was, can we make the trail wider? The answer is yes. These plans are not final. And I spoke to a lot of people who look at it here. We can't necessarily do it everywhere, but we'll do it where we can. That's a reasonable request.
Right. So the plans are nearing completion. In fact, before this meeting, we had a brief conversation with the town's planner and and other members of the committee here about some feedback, so we're going to incorporate that into the plan. And there will be a final plan proposed soon, which will be given to the select committee, which includes both council people and, as I said, other borough professionals. Assuming they find that acceptable, the plan then has to go to the DEP for approval. It's being designed for that purpose now.
What about town residents?
Pardon, sir?
What about the town residents? Do they have any say in any of this stuff, or you just guys choose?
Absolutely.
Just pick and choose and do whatever you
Well,
want anyway?
Well, we would.
There's a committee.
Yeah,
Huh?
the committee of your elected representatives, and again, there will,
By the borough.
sir, there will, let
That's
me,
not the citizens, that's you people right here just making decisions.
okay, if you give me a
for
second,
your
Private people, the public.
if you give me a second, I'll get to the
You
part
can
where I
speak to the
talk about.
public.
Sir, if you give me a second, I'll get to the part where I talk
talking
about
her.
the public hearings, okay? You're asking.
How are you the public? Do you live here?
I said no, I said not the private, but the public. The public
The
does have.
planning, went in front of planning board too.
So as I was about to say, once the DEP says that it's okay, the next process is to go for the borough planning board, in which case there will be advertised public meetings. And by the way, this is about the 20th public meeting that I've attended where we've talked
Here?
about all of this here.
This has only been the second meeting that was ever
Well, I-
open to the public, and I couldn't make the first one.
I assure you, there's been at least 20
lot more than
public
that, sir.
meetings that I've attended, council meetings, PWD meetings, there's been all kinds of meetings. But you'll have your chance.
All right, so-
I would suggest if anyone has any comments or suggestions about the
Nothing
park,
worse than a liar.
if anyone has any comments or suggestions about the park, please let your professionals and your elected officials know, because that's who we take orders from.
This gentleman here has a
Can I ask a question to Councilman D'Angelo from Bellmawr?
Okay.
You know as well as I do, we've had meetings about this, and everything you've said so far has been true. And Mr. Brown, I want to thank you because I honestly to God believe what you say is true. I believe that landfill is capped. But that's all I believe. And I don't care what you say, Jack. You want to be an ass?
I'm not
Let
being
me
an
talk,
ass.
okay?
I've seen everything.
Let me
on it.
talk. My turn.
Don't you raise your voice in the air.
So, we've had these meetings about the park, okay? The rec department was there, Public Works was there, various people from the borough were there. You know we gave suggestions for what we wanted. And after 2 meetings, I think it was, the group decided that everything that we said, which you have to agree, at the time, it was a good idea. That's a great idea. That's all I heard, not you. It's a great idea. It's a good idea. You guys are doing a good job. These are great ideas for this park. And then it comes around to the park to actually make a decision. And every suggestion we made to this group was rejected. So when you say, if you have any suggestions, you bring to the committee, my question is why? Because everything we brought to you, no, Jack, I'm not talking to you.
Kind of looks like you're looking at me.
Everything that we brought to you in the group, okay, was rejected. So, but yet everything that you initially brought to the table is in the park. Which, for the life of me, I can't understand. The only thing I can believe is you're only going to do what Green Acres requires you to do. You're not taking any of our suggestions. I don't even think you took one. Everything in this park
I'm upset.
is what you guys want.